Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we learn about Circle the Atlantic, the flight to end polio. On August 30th, Iowan Peter Teahen and fellow pilot Ed Galkin will embark on a record-setting flight circling the Atlantic in a single-engine plane. Now, on July 31st, 2023, pilots Peter Teahen and John Oakenfels completed their first around-the-world flight to end polio, a 90-day flight that included 37 landings in 19 countries, covering a distance of 30,000 miles. John and Peter have made more than 150 presentations worldwide in support of the Rotary Global Polio Eradication Initiative. This is a phenomenal achievement, a great thing as an Iowan to see you doing. Peter, tell us a little bit about what motivated you to do this and a little bit about this upcoming flight.
Hi, Peter. It's a dream, again, a new dream compared to the 2023 flight, the Around the World. Both of them started as just a thought that I wonder if I could do this. And in 2017, I approached my wife. I said, I wonder if we can fly a single engine airplane around the world, because in history, there's only 700 pilots at that time that have flown a single engine around the world in over 100 years. And that dream was full of challenges and expectations, and one of the successes, one of the great things was I ended up taking another pilot, John, who you mentioned, as my cousin, with me. But it was met with challenges of 2 years of COVID being canceled, and the Russian invaded Ukraine couldn't be canceled. And so it came very, very close to being a dream that we just gave up on. But the basis of that flight was to raise awareness and money to help eradicate polio in the world. And as we plodded through those many years until the flight of 2023, we knew at a certain point that you can't give up. You can't give up your dream, because this is far more important than either one of us, either John or I, and the risks were involved. The success of that flight gave us the inspiration to do another flight, and that's the flight of 2025, Circle the Atlantic, which will be a unique flight of just coming around the North Atlantic. And as you said, Ed Galkin will be with me, John serving as technical advisor. And Ed is really an inspiration. He holds the world record of flying around the world. And he is the oldest pilot to fly around the world, which he did in 2022 at 87 years old. And what's going to be historic about this flight, Circle the Atlantic, is he will become the oldest pilot to fly a single engine airplane across the Atlantic, both eastbound and westbound, at 89 and a half years old. And I'm saying, boy, I have a hard time keeping up with him. He's such an active pilot. He's such a brilliant mind. And I think John and I have had a lot of fun working with Ed, going to make this flight a dream come true.
Well, there's some humble roots. I mean, we know you told me, and I hope I'm not crossing any lines here, but you were initially thinking about doing this solo, but you had a very sensible wife that said, you better not do this alone. But what led to the connection with the Rotary and the fight to end polio?
Well, it was a challenge, and unfortunately, we have wives sometimes that are smarter than us, and when she gave me a challenge, says, "You're not doing it by yourself. I better find somebody as crazy." And John came to mind because he had 3 airplanes. But when John and I sat down originally, it was just 2 old guys going to fly around the world. And we kind of scratched our head and we said, how are we going to do this? And what are the details involved? And we got into the planning phase of it. And after a few meetings, we looked at each other and said, what are we doing? Because both John and I are humanitarian, work with a lot of humanitarian causes and raise money and help people all around the world. And we said, we're both Rotarians. We got to do something that benefits people rather than just spending our time flying around the world. And that's when we came up with, we're both Rotarians. We both have been supporters of the End Polio Now project that Rotary has had since 1985, leading the world effort. And we said, it only makes sense. We're going to set an aggressive goal that we don't know whether we'd make, and that was $10,000 at the time. And it was all going to go to Rotary, 100%. It wasn't going to be a fundraiser where we'll raise money and whatever the trip costs, and we'll deduct from that and gives it. John and I said, we're Rotarians, we're giving it all Rotary. We, and that was, we didn't know how we were going to do it, quite honestly. We figured, when we always laughed and said, I think you're going to have to chip in 5 and I'll chip in 5 and make that 10,000. And because it's going to Rotary, we knew the Gates Foundation under arrangement of Rotary give $2 for every one. So we said, if we raise 10, they'll give 20, not bad. Well, $30,000. But that was part of the success of the dream. We didn't make our $10,000 goal, as you know. And with all the speeches, as you mentioned, we still raise money. And Rotary told us in October that we are significantly over $2 million and growing steadily.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Well, we're going to take a short break and come back. I want to hear more about this exciting story and a little bit about some of the excitement from the first journey. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Malware and bots and worms, oh my. The wild, wild web can be a scary and complex place. And as our digital world expands, so too are the threats. Watch out! Trojan horse. That's why at MediaCom, we take security very seriously and monitor our networks around the clock to stop threats before they can affect you. Not today, Rude Kid. Not all internet is created equal. We build ours to keep you connected and protected.
Did you know that watching MC22 is now easier than ever before? I know, it's crazy, right? Crazy, Well, all MediaCom customers can watch local programming anytime online. Go to mc22.net, click Watch MC22, and log in with your MediaCom account. Not a MediaCom cable subscriber? That's fine. MediaCom internet or phone subscribers can watch too. Your local programming leader, MC22, online at mc22.net/watch.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking with Peter Teahen about their work, first about their flight around the world to support the Rotarians and the fight to end polio, and their upcoming flight circumventing the Atlantic, which is going to be record-setting. But let's go back in history a little bit, a couple of years, and hear a little bit about the excitement and challenges that were faced on that first flight around the world for the fight to end polio. Peter, give us some insight.
Well, it was many years in the planning and a lot of cancellation year after year. As we said originally, with COVID and Russia invading Ukraine, we couldn't go through the Russian airspace. The 702 pilots that have now flown around the world in a small plane, they did that in 456 missions. Of those 456 missions, only 30 of us have flown through Australia. So that was like the first challenge. We had to overcome the fear of going across the Pacific all the way down to Australia and up north, rather than just going out through Japan, Russia, and into Nome, Alaska. It was a difference of 80 miles compared of getting across the ocean rather than 3,500 miles of going across the southern route. So that was a big decision we had. We didn't have the right airplane. The original flights, I was going to take the plane I had owned for 30 years, but once we decided Australia route, the plane I had for 30 years and was going to take through Russia could not handle the Australian route. So we said we either give up the dream or we have to switch airplanes. And we said the dream's too important. We bought the airplane. The plane was a Cessna 210 and was perfect for the flight. But you look at the different challenges we had. We took off out of Cedar Rapids. Our first stop was Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And on approach, we had electrical failure on the aircraft where the plane alternator failed. That immediately set us back almost a week trying to get parts and pieces. Once we got out of that part back in place, then we took off to Canada and Newfoundland and ran into pure ice storms. We actually diverted to Septile, Canada, because we couldn't make it to our destination of Goose Bay, Newfoundland, because of this massive ice storm. So again, getting set back constantly. You have a very detailed plan, and then you're getting all these shockers that are sending you back. Newfoundland, we got iced in. We couldn't land in Greenland because Greenland was iced in. So we had to bypass Greenland and make an 8.5 hour flight over to Iceland, where we actually got iced in again. So we were constantly fighting weather that way. Then we started fighting some mechanical issues. We lost our autopilot. Didn't have the altitude hold thing, so we were flying the plane by hand a lot of the time. We couldn't get a spare part from Talus to catch up with us to get through customs and things. So we figured Australia would be before we could get that help. As we were flying, we avoided a typhoon that went through India. We did fuel challenges. About 50% of our fueling the aircraft had to be done by hand. The airports we landed in didn't have the fuel we needed, so we had to ship it in by barrels and then hand pump the fuel into the airplanes. And Nagpur, India, the fuel wasn't there we needed, and that set us into a logistic nightmare of trying to get the fuel there, and we had to keep going commercially for a while to come back and get the plane to go fundraising. It was our stop in Karachi, Pakistan that really set us back. As we were working in the ghettos, vaccinating children, meeting with the families, seeing the environments, visiting the hospital. I ended up contracting a parasite called Giardia, which knocked me very sick. I made it to southern India, ended up in isolation in Goa, India, was there for several days. By the time we got to Darwin, I was back in the emergency room for 8 to 12 hours. And then by the time we made it to Cannes, France, I was isolated for 7 days and to an environment where only one nurse would actually come in to see me. So we had, physical, we had the mechanical parts of the plane, we had the weather, we were dealing with storms and ice, and we had, all, the meteorological, the mechanical, and the, just the well-being of John and I. When we took off of Brisbane, Australia, that was probably, I call the first emergency. We took off Brisbane at 10 in the morning. We were on a 7-hour flight to New Caledonia. 2 hours outside of Brisbane, we had electrical failure. The alternator we fixed back in Portsmouth in the first stop failed again. And we were 2 hours out. Now, the engine would have ran, but we would have lost all navigation and communication, which you don't want to do out over the ocean because you have no way to figure out where these islands are at. We hightailed, got back to Brisbane, had total failure, but it was a close call because had we been another hour and a half, 2 hours out, we wouldn't have had the electrical power to navigate to find Australia and the other islands and could have easily gotten lost at sea.
And that's the amazing thing is we're talking about places you've landed and challenges you encountered moving around. But when you're in the air, this is a single engine plane.
Yeah. You can't,
and besides fuel and other breakdowns,
stuck.
You only have one engine. There is no backup.
Yeah. That flight after we got that alternator fixed was probably the longest and the most frightening, which I talked about earlier. 18 hours nonstop, sitting side by side, elbow to elbow. You can't get up. You can't move around. You're stuck in this airplane. We had fuel in the wings, 90 in the main wings, 33 in the extended wings. But we had a 160-gallon fuel bladder right behind the seat. Now, imagine driving down the car on the highway with a 160-gallon rubber bladder right behind your passenger seat and your driver's seat. And we couldn't even get the seats back far enough. And the important thing about that is we calculated our fuel quite, well. We knew what we had. We maxed out. When we took off Pongo, we were 1,000 pounds overweight. Before we got 6 hours outside of Hawaii, John said, Peter, we have a problem. We don't have enough gas. We're not going to make it to Hawaii.
Wow. All right. On that note, we're going to take a short break. And let's resolve this cliffhanger and we come back. See y'all after the break. You certainly don't want to miss this.
Well, because because it's the best. And that's true, because I've thought about that. I mean, definitely the fastest. And the biggest thing I hear most people talk about is the stability of it.
MediaCom's network is very reliable. We have a lot of programs in place that can monitor kind of issues that arise. That way we can fix them before they reach the customer.
Trust the pros. Get Extreme Internet starting at $9.99 a month for a year.
Listen, I love what I do. Helping businesses survive and grow is just a part of my daily routine. Doesn't matter if they're small or big or what they do. I provide them with the tools, technology, and support for them to realize their dreams and security to protect their dreams. So when my job is done, they know their business internet is up to speed and up for any challenge. At MediaCom Business, we're proud to be powering American business.
After the storm stops and the winds settle, we come together to rebuild what matters. MediaCom is right here with you, committed to restoring your service and offering vital communications access. We're here to assist in relief efforts and to support our community in whatever ways we can. Most importantly, helping you stay connected to what matters most: family, friends, safety.
Well, when you left us, John was flying over the Pacific Ocean without enough fuel to get to Hawaii on the historic around the world flight to end polio. So here you are out over the ocean and your pilot's telling you you don't have enough fuel. What happened?
That was bone chilling words. Peter, we're not going to have enough fuel. And, you knowing that survivability of going in the ocean in the daytime is very low. This meant we were going to land in the ocean around 9 o'clock at night because we didn't have enough gas. And, but we had a few hours to think about it. But when John said, Peter, we don't have enough gas, I looked at him and says, you're kidding. We've got to have enough gas because there are no other options. And I said, go back and start figuring. He was figuring the transfer of the fuel from the bladder up into the wing. And he says, well, I've been trying for 20 minutes before I even told you. And I said, well, figure it again. And that went on about an hour. And finally, I turned to him and just said, John, we're not going to die tonight. There's got to be a mistake in the calculation. Go back and refigure. And after a while, he said, oh, I see, which are 3 wonderful words to hear in that environment. He had written down the transfer of the fuel to the wing and accidentally wrote down the number twice. And he said, I wrote down 2 30-gallon transfer. It was only 1. So he said, with that, we have enough fuel to get to Alaska, but to Hawaii. But for that over an hour, it was nerve-wracking because you really feel like you were going to die. And it was there was no chance to, put it down in the ocean in a storm at night is not favorable. They teach you in survival class, if you have to make an emergency landing in the water, find a ship, land 5 miles ahead of the ship, because the big freighter has to slow down. 30,000 miles, 60% over water. We never saw a single ship at sea. So the survivability of having that. So that was the big thing out of there. We did a 17-day flight to back to the mainland from Honolulu or from Maui. But when we got the last day of the flight, we were going to come from Denver, Colorado, back home to a welcome home ceremony in Cedar Rapids. We didn't want to do that long flight one day, so we snuck into Ankeny the night before. And I looked down and said, there's oil underneath the plane, John. He says, well, it can't be us. We just got here. The next day, there was a lot of oil. In that flight from Denver to Cedar Rapids, or Denver to Ankeny, we had a major oil line break. Had lost more than 4 quarts of oil. We only had 10. Had that incident happened 4 days earlier over the Pacific, we would have never made it across. The engine would have seized. So constant challenges. And that was the things you reflect when we thought about Circle of the Atlantic. Do you really want to go back out over the water? And the answer is yes. Now, Ed Galkin is going to be experienced. He's the most experienced pilot, oldest pilot flying around the world. He will become the oldest pilot across the Atlantic. But you look back and you say the power of the spirit of the mission of this flight to end polio forever. And you think about it, there's only 24 children, new cases this year, only 24. It used to be hundreds of thousands or thousands a day, hundreds a year. And now we're down to only 24 so far. And that's what made us inspired to do Circle the Atlantic. Continue to raise awareness and continue to raise money to eradicate polio once and for all. And the eradication of polio will be the only second virus in mankind's history that we've eliminated a virus. The other one was smallpox back in 1987. But we have that right in our hands. And that's why Circle the Atlantic is so important. It's not to set a record that Ed's the oldest person. It's to tell the story to get people to say, polio needs to come to an end. So we're going to take off August 30th, and we're going to do 15 landings in 11 countries and fundraisers in most of those countries. All of it going to Rotary, and all of it being matched 2-to-1 by the Gates Foundation.
You know, we've learned some lessons in even contemporary medicine that, you know, we gave up a little bit on measles. We didn't keep the foot on the gas pedal, and all of a sudden, boom, it's making a big resurgence.
Yes.
You know, it may seem like, okay, but you can't slow down at 24. You have to hit that magic number of 0.
Yeah.
You have to get the job done. And that's amazing and impressive that you're so committed to that.
Yeah, well, there's only two countries right now, Afghanistan and Pakistan, that have the polio virus. And so we've got it narrowed down. They're still monitoring the rest of the world. One of the challenges we have, though, is in the United States and Europe mostly, they say, well, isn't polio, there people are surprised that polio still exists. That they say, well, I thought polio was done. Well, it's almost done. And if we don't end it, exactly like you're saying, you know, it takes one flight, one person on one plane to come across the ocean and expose somebody without it. And that's where Flight to End Polio came. It's one flight could bring it back. Our flight's going to make it end.
What a wonderful sort of harmony in that message. I love that. Well, we're going to take a short break. We come back, we're going to learn more about how people can track and follow your upcoming journey and get a little bit more, maybe some advice and inspiration from you on how to approach daily living from the lessons you've learned flying around the world. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
If, like most people, you love your phone, like can't eat, can't sleep, can't not have it by your side,
my phone,
or you'll be totally lost, kinda love, but you don't love your big cell phone bill or spotty reception, check out Mediacom Mobile. Unbeatable nationwide coverage on a reliable 5G mobile network. Plus, we've got some really incredible prices, too. Keep the phone you love, but love it even more. Mediacom Mobile.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Did you know that watching MC22 is now easier than ever before? I know, it's crazy, right? Crazy. Well, all Mediacom customers can watch local programming anytime online. Go to mc22.net, click Watch MC22, and log in with your Mediacom account. Not a Mediacom cable subscriber? That's fine. Mediacom internet or phone subscribers can watch too. Your local programming leader, MC22. Online at mc22.net/watch.
Today, we've learned a lot about flying, record setting, and the importance of polio eradication. For some final comments and inspiration, let's hear what Peter has to share with us.
When I look back on the flight of 2023, it gives me more energy to go forward on this and take the risk for the next flight. You know, John and I had the opportunities to work in the ghettos of Karachi, Pakistan, where the frontline battle is to end polio. We vaccinated children. We walked the streets with their families. We visited about all the other health situations that they're facing as we're fighting this polio fight. The kids are innocent. We got to protect them. It was on that day while we were in the ghettos there. They had a briefing for us. Rotary and World Health and UNICEF had a briefing for John and I. And it was a high-level briefing. The briefer sat across the table from us. At the end was reporters at the end of the table. After an hour briefing, they said, okay, now you and John are doing a press conference. And so we set up for the press conference, and the first question out of the senior TV anchor, Karachi, Pakistan, was Captain Teahen. We were captains because in that part of the world we were as pilots. He said, Captain Teahen, you still have hope that we're going to see the end of polio. And it stunned me because I really hadn't given it that much thought, but I had him ask the question again just to give me time to think about it. And I don't take any credit for these words that came out of my mouth in that response, but I looked at him and I said, John and I are flying around the world to raise awareness and money to eradicate polio. We vaccinated these kids. We visited the children being treated in the hospitals. We see the conditions we're dealing with. But I have to be honest with you, John and I no longer have hope that we're going to see the end of polio. And with that, the briefers were stunned. The media got all hyped up that, my God, this is a breaking story. These guys speaking for Rotary no longer have hope. And we joked that every Rotarian in the room fainted off their chair saying, oh my God, what do we do? And after all that frenzy ended and started dying down a little bit, I said, let me tell you, we no longer have hope. We believe we are seeing the end of polio. I said, and that's a message I wanted them to take to all their readers and listeners around the world, was it's time to stop hoping. That's for children's and parties and unimportant things. It's time that each person in the world believes we are seeing the end of polio and not give up. And that was the most powerful thing, the most personal thing that came out of the 2023 flight. And that's a message we're going to carry on the 2025 flight, Circle the Atlantic. We'll set a record for Ed being the oldest, but this is the most important, raise money. So we invite people to go to our flighttoendpolio.com website. It'll tell you how you can donate. And every dollar you give, the Gates Foundation will match with $2. And together we'll believe, and together we're going to end this fight against polio. And the last child will be infected. And it's because of what we're all doing here today.
I really appreciate and hope this show honors your message and gets more people engaged with what you're doing and following your flight, because what you're doing is historic and monumental. And again, I commend you for it. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you all for watching. Watch MediaCom MC22 and MC22.net for all our episodes of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.